Today we're making a simple but delicious Chipotle Butternut squash soup and pairing it with homemade adobo croutons that will blow away anything you can buy in a bag. You probably already have most of the ingredients needed laying around your house, and for the few that you don't, well, here's your excuse to put on real pants this week. You can make this soup in under an hour and thank yourself for the rest of the week while you eat it twice a day, every day, alone. For the oddball ingredients here, you're going to need a butternut squash, a can of chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, heavy whipping cream, and chicken or vegetable stock if you want this to be fully vegetarian. You can make your own stock, but I'm going to use better than bouillon for this today because, let's face it, I'm lazy and the cat's already disappointed in me, so who do I have to impress? This one's going to be really, really good. Let's eat. First, take your butternut squash and cut off the ends. I know you're probably still a bit hungover and shaky here, but try to cut some semblance of a straight line. We need to stand this thing up and peel it without losing any of our fingers today. Second, use a sharp knife. If you're using some old knife from your block that hasn't been maintained for a couple decades, you might as well just grab a butter knife. Seriously, go get your knife sharpened at a butcher or hardware store. It's only a few bucks, and the nubs where your fingers used to be will thank you. Okay, now that that's out of the way, take your vegetable peeler and get rid of all the skin. Cut the squash into 2 pieces right above the bulb, and cut those pieces in half again. Here's the fun part. Cut your quarters into even strips and then cut perpendicular to the long edge. Cut those strips into roughly 1-inch pieces and set them aside. Now, we need to remove all the seeds from the bulb like a pumpkin. Fun fact, a pumpkin is also a squash, but my squash lanterns never seem to turn out right, so maybe I'm wrong on that. Cut it in half, take a grapefruit spoon and scoop out the seeds while scraping out any of the stringy stuff. If you don't have a grapefruit spoon, you can use any old regular spoon, a fork, a pumpkin carving knife, let your cat at it, whatever you have that's available and capable of scooping. Once all the seeds are out, set them aside to roast later for a crunchy snack. Cube up the rest of the squash like we did before and relax your wrist for a minute because I left out the part that butternut squash is a pain to cut. You did get your knife sharpened, right? Relaxed? Good. Toss all those chunks into a bowl for later. Next, let's dice our onion. You remember how to do this from my last video, right? Yeah, I just read the description for the recipe and moved on with my life too, so we're gonna go over this again. Chop it in half by cutting from the root to tip and peel the skin off. Make evenly spaced cuts towards the root without cutting all the way through the onion, and then hold it together like you're gripping a squash ball. You see what I did there? Cut perpendicular to your other slices to get evenly diced pieces. Smash your garlic with the side of your knife, peel, and roughly slice it up. Cut out any pieces that look like grayscale, give them to the Lord of Light, and get ready to add some heat. Take the seeds out of 1 chipotle chili, or leave them in if you want to teach yourself a lesson. Do this by opening the chili lengthwise and scooping out any seeds. Wear gloves while you do this and wash your hands afterwards, unless you're just really aching for that lesson. Warm a stock pot on the stove and melt a few tablespoons of butter. Add your onions and garlic and let them cook for a few minutes until they're soft and fragrant. Season with salt and pepper and add about a tablespoon of cumin and cinnamon. Mix together until everyone is well coated and cook for another minute or so. Now, add your chili, butternut squash, and 4 cups of stock. Mix everything up and crank the heat until the stock comes to a boil. Reduce the heat to low, cover, and simmer for about 40 minutes or until the squash is soft and can easily be pierced with a knife. While we're waiting for that to cook, let's make our croutons. Take some day-old bread, cube it up by slicing it in half lengthwise, and then making strips and cubes like we did with the squash. Dump all of those into a large bowl. Take 2 tablespoons of melted butter and add about a teaspoon of sugar. Add a pinch of salt and half of a teaspoon of the adobo sauce from your chilies. Now, take a laughably large spoon for the task and mix everything together until you have a homogeneous mixture. Remember that word from 8th grade science? Well, now you do. Pour the mixture over your bread chunks and thoroughly mix until all the pieces are evenly coated. Toss those onto a baking sheet and spread them out evenly so none of the pieces are touching. Throw them into an oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 to 12 minutes or until they're crispy and golden brown. Okay, our soup's done cooking and we're going to give it a quick stir and kill the heat. Add a half a cup of heavy cream or more if you're cultivating mass and mix it all in. Give everything a few minutes to cool, and then you're going to transfer all of it into a blender or ready your hand mixer if you have an extra hour to kill. Blend on high speed for a few minutes until everything is silky smooth with no chunks. You can also do this in batches if you have a smaller blender. Once everything's blended up, pour your steaming, silky masterpiece back into the pot and add about a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice. Stir that in well and grab a bowl because kitty, it's eating time. Give yourself a couple scoops of soup and artfully add some of your croutons that you definitely weren't eating off to the side while waiting for the blender to finish. Add a dollop of sour cream, or add way too much, but convince yourself that it's gonna look great in a beautiful, picturesque spiral and not like this sour cream poop emoji. Whatever, move on with your life and top with some cilantro for a little hit of extra brightness. Ready your taste buds for the pinnacle of culinary art that just came from your kitchen, and enjoy.